Hi there, and welcome back to What If? Today we are looking into Resident Evil Code Veronica as a possible upcoming chapter for Dead by Daylight. For this video we are creating what is essentially a blueprint of what a chapter or paragraph revolving around a particular franchise might look like. And that includes everything that would normally be in a chapter, including a location, killer, and survivor that would fit into the game. Now for the time being, this is the only Resident Evil chapter that I have a completed idea for, but that doesn't mean I won't look into the series again in the future. So for now, strap in everyone, as we look into a possible chapter for Resident Evil. Location: the Rockfort Island Training Facility. By 1990, the pharmaceutical corporation umbrella had swelled to the extent that a large paramilitary faction was necessary, and thus they created the USS as an elite security force and the UBCS as a biohazard containment force. Rockfort Island was picked as a spot for the training to take place, being a far-off private island owned by Alfred Ashford, a hired executive with familial ties to the corporation. In the process of converting the island for Umbrella's needs, the resident Spanish settler population was evicted from the island and their village destroyed to make room for the new facilities. This facility features, among other things, a prison, repair garage, underground BOW and virus storage facilities, a subterranean airport, a large bathhouse with sauna, and administration offices, all powered by a centralized control room. While this isn't the only area of the island, this is one of the few that has enough room to feed into itself, making it easier to create a map for the procedural. Killer: Alexia Ashford, the Queen. Alexia Ashford was a member of British nobility, coming from the Ashford family. The adopted daughter of Dr. Alexander Ashford, her real parentage was the result of a cloning experiment referred to as Project Code Veronica, and was actually biologically the daughter of Veronica Ashford, Alexander's prominent ancestor. Alexia and her brother Alfred were born around 1971 to an unnamed surrogate mother as part of the aforementioned Code Veronica project. This project, led by Alexander, involved obtaining DNA from the embalmed body of his ancestor and creating a genetically modified clone. The purpose of it was a vanity project, intent on restoring the family's reputation with a child comparable to Veronica, whose intelligence was renowned, as well as to prevent their business partner, Dr. Oswald E. Spencer, from taking full control over the corporation should his father, Edward Ashford, die. While Alexia's genius intellect fulfilled all of Dr. Ashford's expectations, the higher-than-average Alfred did not compare. This is possible due to his creation being the result of an error during the cloning process intended solely to create Alexia. In February of 1983, sometime around her 12th birthday, her brother Alfred told her about a secret room in the Antarctic base. Once inside, the twins learned the complete truth about their creation, and both grew immensely hateful of their father. Capturing him in March of that year, they used him as a test subject for the prototype T. Veronica virus that was created by Alexia. Since her father didn't have adequate preparation, the experiment turned Alexander into an insane monster known as Nosferatu. Taking notes on her father's progress, Alexia discovered certain flaws in her virus and planned to inject herself with it to become a superior being. Using the data she had obtained from her father, Alexia discovered a way to harness the full power of the virus by having herself put in a cryogenic suspension for 15 years. While the virus would be slowed by the ultra-low temperatures to a point where it would not destroy her bodily tissues through overly rapid mutation. In December of 1983, she assigned Alfred to protect her and carry out her will while she was inactive, and proceeded to enter a cryogenic sleep. 15 years later, she awoke with the first thing she saw being her dying brother lying before her. As she cradled him in her arms, she tested out her new powers, beginning her plans to introduce the world to its new queen. Alexia's ability would be T. Veronica, Alexia is not an impatient person, and only moves at 110% movement speed, but she more than makes up for this in her unique powers provided by the T. Veronica virus. With this ability, Alexia gets a set amount of tokens that slowly builds up if she isn't already at max stacks. She can consume a token to use her blood, which can be ignited, to create a trail of fire in front of her. Any survivor who is hit by this trail, or walks across it, will take 1 health state of damage. This ability can go through windows, over pallets, and up walls, with certain add-ons allowing it to slowly burn a pallet to cinders, making it unusable in the future. After a short period of time, the trail of fire will flicker out, making the area safe to traverse again. Along with sending this trail of blood straight out from her, she can make a horizontal line of blood in front of her if she wishes, further limiting survivors' movements. Alexia's first perk is Hot-Blooded. Alexia's anger can get the better of her, but oftentimes she channels that anger into something productive. If Alexia is blinded for any reason, the survivor that blinded her will be exposed for 30 seconds, and all other survivors will become exposed for 15 seconds. If the survivor that blinded Alexia is downed, all other survivors will immediately lose the exposed status. If she is blinded again while the exposed status is still in effect, all players will have this additional time added to the exposed time that they already have. Alexia's second perk is Mutation. Alexia's body knows how to react to external stimuli. Every time Alexia is stunned or blinded, she'll receive a token up to a max of 9. For each token she receives, all future stun and blind times will be reduced by 10%. This will drastically reduce how effective stuns and blinds are for her moving forward. Decisive Strike will not be affected by mutation, but being stunned by the perk will still provide you with a token. Alexia's third perk is Brilliant Mind. Alexia has no problem with outthinking and outwitting the survivors she comes across. With Brilliant Mind, Alexia has put a stop to survivors trying to push multiple generators at once. If 2 generators have reached at least 75% completion, both will explode at the same time. At this point, one of the generators will be blocked by the entity and will start to degrade. It will continue to degrade until the other generator has been completed or it has degraded down to 0%. Afterwards, this perk will go on cooldown for a short duration. This perk doesn't just affect generators though. Once the final generator has been completed, this perk reactivates no matter its cooldown status. At this point, if both exit gates have been opened by at least 50%, one of them will be invisibly marked. Attempting to fully open this gate at this point will cause the gate to short out. The gate that has shorted out will not be able to be opened for 60 seconds. Survivor. Steve Burnside, Stubborn Prisoner. Steve Burnside was a normal teenager when he and his father were imprisoned on Rockfort Island. It was here that Steve learned of his father's attempts to sell information that belonged to the multinational conglomerate Umbrella. He also learned how this landed both him and his father in their current predicament. Steve never truly forgave his father for this, even when Rockfort Island was attacked, allowing Steve and his father's escape. Due to the chaos, the two became separated, but Steve managed to survive the zombie onslaught caused by the leak of an experimental virus known as the T-virus. Sometime later, Steve met a recent prisoner of the island, Claire Redfield, and after a rocky beginning to their relationship, the two began to rely on each other for survival. This friendship was ultimately tested when Steve and Claire ran into the now zombified version of his father, and Steve was forced to put him down to save Claire's life. Eventually, both Claire and Steve would be captured by Alexia Ashford, and Steve was used to test her new iteration of the T. Veronica virus, causing him to mutate and attack anyone he saw. Steve, however, eventually came back to himself and fought against Alexia's will, resulting in her attacking him directly for his defiance. As he lay dying, Steve managed to tell Claire about his true feelings towards her, as the life left his eyes. Soon thereafter, Claire and her brother Chris came across an old nemesis of his, Albert Wesker. As Chris and Wesker threatened and fought each other, Wesker revealed that he had taken Steve's body to obtain a sample of the T. Veronica virus that was within him. And before Claire made her escape, he left her with an antagonistic, yet hopeful statement. Maybe he'll return to life, just like I did. Steve's first perk is Stubborn. Steve will not be swayed by a killer's attempts to get him off a gin. If Steve is working on a gin, and the killer hits the gin within 10 seconds of him letting go of it, Steve will receive a 25% speed boost when working on that particular generator for the next 30 seconds. If 2 people are working on the same generator when the perk Stubborn is activated, the speed boost is reduced to 10%. If 3 people are working on the gen, 5%. If by chance all 4 survivors happen to be on that particular gen while the Stubborn perk is activated, then the perk is negated completely. Steve's second perk is Fortuitous Accident. Steve has been known to be somewhat clumsy, getting himself and others into trouble. But sometimes, these accidents can actually be helpful. If Steve misses a skill check, there is a percentage chance that instead of decreasing generator or healing progression, it actually increases it instead. All other rules towards missing a skill check remains, including creating a noise notification and there being a temporary amount of time where no additional progression can be made. This miss can complete a generator or finish healing a survivor if timed properly. Steve's final perk is Risk It All. If Steve is injured and rescues someone from the dying state or off of a hook, for the next 5 seconds, any damage that would have been done to him will instead apply the effect Deep Wounds instead. Afterwards, this perk will go on cooldown for 30 seconds. And that's it for this episode of What If? Let me know what you think of the Resident Evil Code Veronica chapter. Special thanks again to Jack Freeman for supporting me on Patreon. If you would also like to support me, you can do so using the link below. If you can't or simply don't want to, don't worry. There is another way that you can support me, and that's, gosh, I forget. How is it that you can support me again? Ah yes, that's right. Liking this video and subscribing. Doing both of these things puts me in good favor with the YouTube algorithm, and that's always a good thing because if it doesn't like you, you're doomed. With that, as always, I thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Hunter.